Alright, welcome back to another video. So in the last one, I introduced how we can customize our terminals so it looks like this instead of the default one. In this one, I'm gonna recommend a couple of useful apps that you can use throughout your development experience, and they're just gonna make everything easier, and some tips and tricks of using the latest Windows features to aid your journey in becoming a full-fledged software developer. So the first one I'm gonna recommend is called Powertoys. I'm gonna search for it. We can get search Powertoys, and okay, I think it's the first one. The source is the store. That's why the ID doesn't look like a name. It's like an ID thing. So let's install it. We can get install. Oops. Let me copy this. Paste. There we go. Oh, typo. There we go. We'll agree to the terms, and it has just finished installing. So let's take a look at what it is. And right off the bat, it's showing us a welcome page of all the feature that it has. So there's this feature that's really useful. It's called Advanced Paste. It's gonna, here's a little video to show you what it does. Essentially, it's pasting, but just cranked up to 11. So you can paste things to another format, or you can paste without the styles. You're gonna find that a lot more useful when you actually need it, but there's also a optional feature where you can insert an open API API key, and then and then you will be able to type a prompt telling it to convert the content in the clipboard to whatever format you want, and then it'll in the background it'll call open API. I think right now it uses the GPT 3.5 Turbo to convert your content, but in the future there might be more options there as well. There's always on top, so if you have apps like calculator where you're just constantly using calculator, you don't want to keep finding it in the stack of Windows, you can use this utility to keep a specific app window to be always on top. Awake is pretty useful. It keeps your computer awake without going into screensaver and going into hibernation or sleep. It's useful when you want to go grab a cup of coffee, but don't want your boss to find out that you're offline. So it's very useful. Color picker picks the color on your screen. I'll do a demo a little later, but these are the things that I find very useful. Environment variables. So if you use any frameworks that relies on setting environmental variables or setting path, this is just a lot more user-friendly way instead of using the built-in one in Windows. Fancy zones. This is gonna be one of the things that you use most often, because it just helps you set up your screen exactly how you like it, and it saves a profile, and then you can reuse it in the future. File export add-ons, it just adds some modules for you to preview different file formats. Host file editor, this one's also useful. If you ever do backend development, you're launching an app in a specific IP address on a specific port, but you don't want to remember that, you can set it and then set a alias so you can always find it. Again, you can just go in and edit the file, the raw file in the text editor, but this app just makes it much more user-friendly. Image resizer, you can resize any image to any size you want. It's pretty useful when working with front-end content. Keyboard manager, you can remap your keyboard shortcuts to whatever you are used to. That's pretty useful if you're coming from Mac OS and you don't know all the keyboard shortcuts in Windows. This one can remap it to whatever you're used to. Mouse utilities, sometimes your cursor is just lost in the sea of different UI bits on the screen. Double click on control, it'll focus on your mouse and show you where it is. Another thing I find pretty useful is Powertoy Run. So if you're coming from Mac, you probably use Spotlight to do a global search, and this is the equivalent of that in Windows. It's called Powertoy Run. You use Alt and space to trigger it, and it has a lot of functionalities in it. We'll explore that a little later. There's also a screen ruler where you can measure things. It's kind of useful when you have a design file. When you build UI, you want to see the dimensions, but a lot of times the designers do provide those information, so it's not 100% of the time that you need this. So let's dive into those demos, shall we? Let's close the welcome page. So first one, advanced paste, right? We have it enabled. AI is optional, so you don't have to have the OpenAI API key. But just right off the bat, it's already pretty useful. So let's open up a file here, right? Or we can just do whatever. Let's say you know what, I don't have the best example. Let's see if they have anything in their learn more. Okay, so right here they have JSON, right? We can copy that and you can paste it right here. If you trigger I think it's Control or Windows Shift V, yeah, you can say paste as JSON. It was XML before, but if I do paste as JSON, it'll paste that as JSON, right? And other times, when you copy something from Word or from Markdown or just from the web, they're gonna have different font colors. The thing you copy is gonna have styles in it, right? And if you paste into another thing that takes a style sheet, so for example, into your email or into Word document, you're gonna mess up the styles. So a lot of times you just want to paste as plain text, and we have that option as well, right? Paste as plain text. And this feature is gonna keep evolving, and in the future it might be able to use those advanced NPUs on the new Copilot Plus PCs. So you probably wouldn't even need a API key to cost you money. So it's a pretty neat feature. All right, let's keep going. Stay on top is pretty useful. Take a look. Awake, pretty useful. Take a look. Color picker, this one is neat. So the shortcut is Windows Shift and C. If we do that, you see this little floating window that's next to your pointer. So that's actively picking up the color that your pointer is pointing at, right? And if I click, this little window is going to open up. I can paste, I can copy all of these, the colors value in these different formats to use it in whatever app I'm developing, right? It's just very useful. Environmental variable editor, I use this one pretty often. You can edit the user variables, system variables. The one variable that you are going to use pretty often is the path variable, right? So you can edit this one, add new ones, delete, edit. It's pretty useful. Fancy zones. This one deserves a special mention because it's so useful that Windows 11 have a version of it built in, so you can hover on your maximize button and get this UI where you can choose the zones that you want your app to fill in, and you can pick what app fills in the other one. But the one in Fancy Zone is still here, so you can launch the layout editor. You can just have a lot more options. Say, for example, I just want this one, right? So let's use that one as our primary one. So if I hold down Shift, you're gonna see this preview show up in the background, right? Number two is the big one in the middle. Number one is the one on the left. 3 is on the right. So I'm gonna put my browser in the middle here. If I'm still holding on Shift, if I let go of my mouse, it's gonna go here, right? And I can put my Powertoys settings on here on the left, and I can put my terminal here on the right, and it is pretty neat. And all of those layouts, here, let me resize this a little bit. All of those layouts, you can edit them, and you can add new ones, and you can set which one is the default. And if you have a bigger screen, this is going to be really, really useful, just so that you can quickly get your windows in order. So that's Powertoy. That's Fancy Zone. And file export add-ons, this one's pretty useful. So if you're in file export and you have image files, I think text files, txt files, the sidebar does allow you to preview them. I don't have anything in here, but say for example, if we do this one, we do it detail, it's not gonna show you anything, right? So for the files that we have here, SVG files, text files, markdown files, PDF, if you turn that on, Windows will be able to preview them in the sidebar in the file export. So pretty neat options. Host file editor. So for this one, you launch it. It shows you a warning because you pretty much need to know what you're doing, otherwise you can mess it up. But as developers, we all know what we're doing, I hope. So you can add new entries here. The address is going to be wherever your whatever IP address and the ports that you're deploying your app to, right? And then the host is going to be the name that you wish to use instead of the IP address and the port. And the comment is just for yourself. You can set it as active or inactive. Inactive means you saved it, but it's not being used right now. So pretty useful stuff when you do backend development. Image resizer. There are a bunch of preset sizes that you can resize your image to, and there's also encoding and decoding stuff as well. Pretty useful. Mouse utilities. So this one, if I do a double click on the control key, right? So you see my mouse is now focused. I can find it exactly where it is. Type again, it goes away. There's a cool animation if you're doing this on a normal computer. I'm just doing this in virtual machine. That's why it's just like the circle just shows right away. But otherwise, you're on your real computer, you see a nice animation zooming into the mouse. Mouse without borders. I haven't used this personally, but it allows you to use the same mouse across different computers. It's pretty cool. Peek is kind of like a macOS preview function where you can use the space bar, but in this case it's Control plus space to preview any file. Is pretty impressive, but personally I haven't found a usage pattern for this. Yeah, we have power rename. You can rename a bunch of files with a pattern. Also, personally, I haven't found a use case for this, but I'm pretty sure people have needs for this. Powertoy run. This one is really impressive. So it kind of looks like this. If I minimize everything, I open it up. I can search to type anything I want. So if I do terminal you know, I can open terminal, but in this case I already have it open. If I click, I think it'll, oh, it opens a new instance. I think it also has an option to do like a window walk, so that it walk through all the open windows, so that, you know, if you have it open, just switch to it. Probably don't have it enabled. Let's see. Oh, I do. Okay, that's interesting. But it does have like a lot of functionality. So for example, if I do 3 plus 5, it's going to be able to calculate it, right? So like calculation, it does calculation. And there are some symbols that you can use to trigger different kind of functionality. So if I do if I do this greater than, and I can use ping google.com, and it'll run the ping program, right? Pretty impressive. What else can I do? So all of these are the keywords that you can use for the plugins. I probably won't go through all of them. Oh, so window walker is you do a smaller sign, and then you do terminal, and then it brings up the open window. So yeah, just take a look at all the plugins. It's really useful. I cannot stress how useful this tool is. Next one, screen ruler. Yeah, this one, I haven't used this one too much personally, but you know, sometimes you probably do need it if you just want to figure out exactly the distance between two control elements. So it's Windows Shift and M, and you have different options. So if you use this one, you can see like, you know, oh, there's 31 pixels between this image and the bottom of the title, right? That's pretty impressive. I bet it's useful for a lot of people. Yeah, so that's Powertoy. Very useful stuff. Definitely as a developer, I think everyone just needs it. And yeah, there are a couple other things that are useful. And people typically don't find out about those until, you know, other people tell them. So one of them is screenshot. So in Windows, screenshot typically you use is the snipping tool, and the snipping tool in Windows 11 got a huge boost in functionalities and UI UX. So the keyboard shortcut to trigger it is Windows Shift and S. So Windows Shift S will trigger it. It'll just right off the bat go into this mode. You can either screenshot, or you can do screen recording. And for screenshot, you have different modes. You can draw a rectangle to define whatever region you want to do a screenshot, or you can do a specific window, or you can even do freeform or in the entire screen. So, but normally I just do a rectangle like this, right? And as soon as you let go, a notification will pop up, and you click it. It'll open the snipping tool for you to further edit the screenshot you just took, or save it or copy it. And there are some useful tools here. You can doodle, right? You can doodle on this. Not very useful. You can highlight certain things. Also, I don't use this too often. But recently they added the, actually this is not the latest version. Let me take a look. I don't think this is the latest version of this. Modified yesterday. Okay, it might not be in this one, but recently they added the ability to draw rectangles or circles, so that you can, you know, traditionally if you want point people's attention to a certain part of your screenshot, you do like, look at this. But in a different version, I bet when you watch this video, they're gonna have that out already. Right now, I think it's in preview. They're gonna have the ability to draw circles, rectangles, and arrows without you being, you know, without using this inking feature. which is pretty sweet. And yeah, another feature very useful here. Obviously, they have rulers, they have cropping, but they added OCR, so you can click this, and this border thing will show up, and then they will be able to recognize all the text on screen. You can copy them, right? Very useful. You can copy them and paste. Say I open Notepad, can paste that, right? So all the text in the screenshot is usable now. Very useful stuff. The second thing, or the third thing that I think is very useful in Windows is called Clipboard History. So you can, everyone knows how to copy. Use Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. But there's a new thing. It's triggered by Windows plus V. If you haven't used it before, it will not be initialized. But you see it says, turn on Clipboard History to copy and view multiple items. So I can turn it on. And now whenever I copy something, right, copy the one thing, copy the second thing, copy third thing, and if I want to paste them, right, I do Windows plus V, and you can see all the histories in your clipboard. That's the first thing I copied, that's the second thing I copied, that's the third thing I copied. And if I'm using any of them very frequently, I can just save them like this, right? Now they're pinned, they will always be on top. I can also delete it, or if I need to paste certain items, I just click, right? Open, click, open, click. So we can copy and paste multiple items. And guess what's the best part? Screenshots also goes into the history. So if I want to copy and paste multiple screenshots, it also works. Just awesome feature. And in case you didn't know, this panel here is not only for clipboard histories. You can always find, you can also find emojis here. Yeah, there's a built-in emoji panel in Windows. Most people don't know about this. You can also trigger this using keyboard. Shortcut is Windows plus period. Right, it just opens the clipboard, the emoji panel. And there's emojis, right? There's GIFs. You can search for GIFs. And there's Kamojis, right? You can express yourself using symbols and whatnot. And special characters is here as well. So overall, very useful feature. And I think that's it. Personally, I would also recommend this app called Powertoys. It just has a lot of useful things for developers. But for me, I used one of them, very specifically one of them, which is the base64 converter. So I convert strings from and to base64 quite often. So I use that almost exclusively from this app. And yeah, I just thought it's very useful. So if you think you're gonna need some of that, download this app as well. And yeah, that's it for this video, and I think that's also the end for this video series. I hope you find it useful. This is just some tips and tricks for how you would want to set up your computer. Yeah, and then I hope those tools and tips will help you along your way of become a full-fledged software developer. Thank you. See you in the next video. Bye.